Namaskar and welcome to the first episode of The Great Game Reloaded. I'm Tilak Devasher. For years you've seen me on panels and podcasts, but this is different. This is where I will dwell on the most pressing national security challenges that India faces. The Great Game Reloaded is a relook at the old concept in its new avatar. So I will bring you the real picture from Pakistan, Afghanistan, and eventually the entire neighborhood. The Great Game was the name given to the political and diplomatic rivalry between 19th century British and Russian empires over influence in Central Asia, primarily in Afghanistan and Persia. Britain feared that Russia's southward expansion would threaten India, the jewel in the crown, while Russia feared the expansion of British interests into Central Asia. A British intelligence officer, Captain Arthur Connolly, coined the term Great Game in 1840. Rudyard Kipling's novel Kim popularized the term, increasing its association with great power rivalry. The Anglo-Russian Convention of 1907 between the British and the Russian empires officially ended the Great Game. However, many believe that the Great Game morphed into the Cold War between the US and the Soviet Union. Interestingly, cheerful relations between British and Russian officers were a constant feature of the Great Game, and whenever their wandering paths met, there were impromptu parties, relaxing evenings around campfires, during which some British officers even developed a taste for rye bread, caviar, salt fish and vodka. Crossing the Pamirs on a quest in 1889, France's young husband, a British explorer, encountered another explorer, Colonel Gromchevsky. The Polish officer was a thorough gentleman who made no bones about his mission and its implications. He told young husband, "We are both playing at a big game and we should not be one jot better off for not trying to conceal the fact." Unquote. Gromchevsky boasted that 500,000 Russian soldiers were ready to invade India, and his Cossacks cheered when he asked them whether they wished to join his enterprise. This was a good Saivor. A convivial evening ended with brandy. Just one of the many encounters between British and Russian officers in the high mountains. In this first episode, I begin with looking at the terror attack in Pahalgam on 22nd April and Operation Sindur that has changed the security paradigm in our region. We now have a new security doctrine. An act of terror by Pakistan will be seen as an act of war. So this is briefly how and why India did the pivot. On 22nd April in Pahalgam, J&K became the site of a chilling massacre. 25 innocent Indians and one Nepali citizen slaughtered in cold blood. The Resistance Front, a front for the banned Pakistan-based terror outfit Lashkar-e-Toiba, claimed the attack. Then they tried to backtrack, comically saying it was a site attack on their webpage. Let's call this what it was, a targeted, religiously motivated execution. The killers asked the victims to recite the Kalma. Those who couldn't were shot on the spot. And the message? Tell Modi. The killers knew which buttons to press. This wasn't a local tragedy. It was a national wound. The communal nature of the killings outraged the country. Pakistan tried to spin the attack as an indigenous uprising. But here's the question. When has a Kashmiri ever targeted tourists whose presence is the lifeline of the local economy? This wasn't homegrown. This was calculated. It was designed to derail the tourism boom in Kashmir and challenge the post-370 normalcy India had worked hard to build. But there is more, the timing. Just as US Vice President J.D. Vance was visiting India and Prime Minister Modi was in Saudi Arabia, this attack happened. Coincidence? Not likely. This was meant to send a message. Let's talk about the recently promoted Field Marshal Asim Munir, the current chief of the Pakistan Army. He was Director General Inter-Services Intelligence when Pulwama happened in 2019. Now he's the top boss during Pahalgam. His tenure ends in November, but before Pahalgam, there were whispers of an extension. And here's what's interesting. On 16th April, just days before the massacre, he gave a speech at the Pakistan Overseas Convention in Islamabad. It was pure communal rhetoric, two-nation theory, Kashmir is a jugular vein, and so on. It's believed that this was the start of his campaign for an extension. Pahalgam, that was step 2. But there is more. Asim Munir's credibility is crumbling. In Pakistan's Punjab, traditionally the army's power base, he is losing ground thanks to the damage inflicted by Imran Khan. The diaspora in the US is openly hostile to the army. Meanwhile, Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa are slipping out of control. Even in Sindh, there are anti-Punjab protests over water. Pakistan has lost the narrative in Kashmir. So what options did Pakistan have left? Diversion, manufactured crisis, the old playbook. Attack India, bleed it by another deep cut, unify the country. This time, India didn't blink. On 7th May, India launched Operation Sindur, a precision strike on 9 terror targets. These weren't soft targets. These were Lashkar and Jaish headquarters, Muridke, Bhavalpur, Muzaffarabad. India didn't target civilians or military. We went straight for the terror infrastructure. And we released the visuals. This wasn't covert. This was an open warning. Pakistan reacted by hitting both military and civilian targets. They believed India would back down under the nuclear override. Instead, India escalated. Drone and missile strikes followed. Lahore and Sialkot's air defences were knocked out. 11 airfields seriously damaged. Strategic ones too. Noor Khan base in Rawalpindi, Sargodha, Jacobabad. And yes, F-16s and nuclear assets were housed there. Let that sink in. Then came the admissions. Pakistan's Defence Minister Khwaja Asif, in an interview with Sky News said, and I quote, "We have been doing this dirty work, i.e. supporting and funding terrorists, for the US for 3 decades. And Bilawal Bhutto added, Pakistan has a past. This wasn't just a past, this was policy. It has been, it continues to be. Visuals emerged of Pakistani army officers carrying the coffin of a known terrorist with the coffin draped in the Pakistan flag. The man officiating at the funeral? Hafiz Abdul Rauf, designated a global terrorist by the US, and by the way, he contested Pakistan's general elections in 2024. Under intense pressure, Pakistan reached out to India on 10th May. Talks followed at the level of Director Generals of Military Operations. But even after agreeing to stop hostilities, Pakistan broke the understanding within 2 hours. Why did India even agree to the cessation of hostilities? The answer is simple. We achieved our objectives. We didn't escalate, we calibrated. We struck where it mattered. And when Pakistan escalated to civilians, we responded, not with emotion, but with intent, measured and proportionate. On 12th May, Prime Minister Modi visited the Adampur Air Base, the very base Pakistan claimed to have destroyed. He landed in a C-130 Super Hercules. That visual alone shattered Pakistan's false claims. And then came his address to the nation. Operation Sindur, he said, was a new normal that was in place now, a new national security doctrine. Here it is. If there is a terror attack on India, there will be a fitting global response. Nuclear blackmail will no longer work. India will strike precisely and decisively. There is no distinction between terrorists and their sponsors. He was blunt. If Pakistan wants peace, it must dismantle its terror infrastructure. There is no middle ground. Terror and talks can't go together. Terror and trade can't go together. Water and blood can't flow together. His words were historic because now this is the way forward for the national security apparatus of the country. This is the path of peace, but peace goes through power, he added. He ended with a final note. Operation Sindur is paused, not ended. India will evaluate Pakistan's behavior. The ball is clearly in Pakistan's court. 7th May wasn't just a military operation, it was a strategic message. India's patience has a limit, and India will hit back hard at any terror incident. And now the world knows when that line is crossed, the response will be swift, brutal, and precise. In the next episode, we'll explore the Indus Water Treaty and how India's non-kinetic response to the Pahalgam outrage has struck just as hard. Until then, I am Tilak Devasher. Namaskar and Jai Hind.